Have you ever run around a track before, like school tracks, track and meet, that kind of thing? When I went to college, I would get out of classes and I'd be so wound up. I'm not a good just sitter and listener. I'd be so wound up getting out of the classes. I would go straight to the track. Sometimes I wouldn't even change. I'd be in my full jeans and t-shirt kind of thing. And I'd get on that starting line and I would imagine in my head that gun and I would just sprint with everything that I had, just all out. Now, every lap around the track is a quarter mile. I never actually made it around a lap at that energy level, but I would get about 3/4 away, and as I'm getting to the end, my legs are burning, and sometimes I would even be like, and start yelling, people looking at me, and I'm just, getting all of the energy out, and it would just feel so good when I got to the end. I'm like, oh, okay, now I can go to another class and sit through this painful hour-long lecture that just anyway, I won't say anything else about my college experience, right? So that's kind of the feeling I get as we start this first practical nugget of the series. Now, first off, practical. I mentioned at the very beginning of the series that the AWS Solutions Architect is not a practical exam. So think of this as, I don't want to call it bonus, but bonus material that goes beyond it. And the reason I want to clarify my bonus comment is because I find that if you know how to do it, you're going to know how to design it and conceptually how it works so much better, because you're like, okay, that's how that works, and then your design just becomes so much better. So even though most of the stuff that I'm going to do in here, you're not going to get onto the exam and there's a simulation or something of how to do this, just knowing these concepts and seeing it done, and even doing it for yourself. Matter of fact, I took the time to write a lab for this, to where you go into the supplemental files on CBT Nuggets and download it. It gives you kind of a step-by-step to do some, not all the stuff. I got took too long to write the lab. I had to go run around a track because, but anyway, I got it started, which really launches you into the right direction of creating or choosing an AMI, creating an instance, all that kind of stuff. So the whole track analogy comes from, good grief, how much EC2 stuff can I jam in here, right? We're going to go through creating instances, key pairs, what those are, and how they work. Security groups, implementing those, like your firewall for your instance. Creating an AMI, like once you've created your instance, how do you now transform it back into an AMI? So maybe all your customized changes, it becomes your new template that you're going to start rolling out. And then it's just anything else. My goal is 30 minutes. 30 minutes of sprinting through this material. Anything else that I can cram in here on EC2, I'm going to do it. Now, before I get started, can I also mention that to this day, AWS Solutions Architect Associate Level Certification is the only certification for AWS currently out there. I do know, and I realize, that Amazon will be releasing more practical certifications of like a SysOp admin, somebody that comes in and actually implements all of these designs and infrastructure that the solution architect has designed. So the reason I say that is, as we go through here, there's going to be stuff. I mean, there's a ton of options that you'll see. There's going to be stuff where I'll just skip right by it. I mean, like advanced options. There's a lot of tweaking that you can do. Don't feel like, oh man, what did that Duma Flak do? I mean, it's just focusing on what the core is, and the other stuff. I mean, you can add that to your knowledge once the other certifications are out, or just through practical experience. So I'm right at the Amazon Web Services world right now. I'm going to start it off with how do you even get an instance going? Like, do it all the way. I know some of the other nuggets I did this, but I used the quick wizard. Like, what are some of your other options? So I'm going to go to the EC2 dashboard, and right down here go straight to the instances. Now, I already have an instance, one of them running. It's just an Ubuntu email server I created, and I previously had a Windows one in here, but I think I terminated it, deleted it out of there. So I'm going to launch an instance. I'm going to add my second instance. Now, hold the phone. I'm in North California. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Carolina. I'm going to go to Oregon. Why? Because that is where CBT Nuggets is at. So hopping over there, and it says, hey, okay, you are now, isn't that kind of cool? I'm in a totally different data center. I'm in a totally different region of the world where I can start launching my systems. It's like, hey, you don't have anything here. You only have that one in North California. Okay, so I'm going to hit launch instance, or the instances. Now, we did the quick launch wizard before. I'm going to go classic. Now, right in here, I have all the different instances, or the AMIs, I should say, that I can choose from. These are all pre-configured from Amazon, includes the licensing, all that kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and grab a Windows Server 2012 base, but also remember that we can go into my own AMIs, like once I create my own images, or images that people have shared with me. You can share images, or go to the AWS Marketplace. You can filter it down. Marketplace, we saw this before, where you can find custom built servers from people, sometimes for free, but most of the time they're going to add whatever 5 cents an hour to your hourly rate, so they can make their money off it as well. But we'll just stick with a quick start. Let's throw a Windows 2012 instance at us. So we'll say, okay, I'll take that. Now, first thing it's going to say is, do you want to go into an availability zone of West 2A, West 2B, or West 2C. Now, what are these? Data centers. Now, in Oregon, the region of Oregon, Amazon has 3 data centers that are all connected with high-speed fiber optic cables. So you can have, so I could launch multiple instances and multiple data centers, and they can communicate as if they were all connected on the same network, because they literally are. They have fiber optic cable running between them. Now, notice over here we have EC2 VPC. Now, hang on. Let me change my instance type, because Windows Server 2012. I don't know how well it's going to do on a micro instance, so we'll throw at least a little larger instance at this. The VPC is a virtual private cloud. It gives you more control over the networking. Eventually, maybe even by the time you've heard this, EC2 Classic will likely be gone and replaced by EC2 VPC, which is now going to be the default, because Amazon realizes that just a ton of people want that control, and a lot of people, not knowing, set their infrastructure up in Classic and then realize they have to terminate their entire system to move it to VPC. There's no moving, at least today, from an EC2 Classic to an EC2 Virtual Private Cloud instance, or where you have more control. And same thing with reserved instances. Like if you buy them in the Classic, you can't transfer those to VPC. You've now got a reserved instance where you've paid the money and now it's just stuck. So anyway, no preference. We'll throw it in whatever data center that you want. I'll click on. I just had the thought. Do I want to go spot on you? Let's do it, right? So spot instance, you remember from the pricing nugget, spot is where you are literally gambling for your virtual machine. So I'm going to put in there what the highest price is that I will ever pay for this spot instance. Now notice, going price is currently 10.6 cents. Can I show you something real quick? I just pulled up the EC2 pricing. Large instance, same one what we're bidding on right now, is normally 36.4 cents an hour. So if I come over here and put a max price of, why not? Put it at 15.7 cents. They do the math for you. 15.7 cents an hour. I'm still getting it for less than half of what I would pay normally, as long as I'm willing to take on the risk that I could lose this spot instance at any given moment. If somebody ever reaches the point where they outbid me, then I'm going to lose it. It's going to terminate right then. I don't think I mentioned this in the spot pricing nugget, but it's worth knowing. If somebody outbids you, let's say, okay, this is 10.6 cents an hour, right? So first off, this is not saying I will pay 15.7. It says I will pay up to 15.7. I will actually pay what the current price is. But if somebody outbids you before your hour is reached, so you've been running this instance for 58 minutes and someone outbids you and it's terminated right then, you do not pay for that hour. You only pay for complete hours that you do. So tell you what, we're in a lab environment right now, right? You might look and go, well, I don't want to pay 36.4 cents an hour. That's a Coca-Cola. Well, actually, you can't even get anything for 30. But anyway, you're like, I don't want to pay that much. Well, I'm telling you, for a lab environment, why don't you come in here and make your max price 10.6? Well, I'll do it right there, 10.6 cents an hour, and hope that somebody outbids you. Right? Then you don't have to pay anything. And you got the experience of running an instance and all that, and it just got terminated behind you. You get to do it all over again. But I will tell you, it's been pretty darn stable. It's rare. It goes up, it goes down. It does. You can look at the history. They put trending on there. But let's make it 10.8 cents an hour, right? Just so I can finish my. I don't want to terminate in the middle of my recording. So yeah, that's the spot instance. We can choose what data center if we want, or choose no preference. Continue on from there. These are, this is the advanced stuff. I was like, whatever. Let's go past that. Okay. Talk about storage. As I'm creating the storage for this device, notice all of the default storage is what? It is ephemeral. right? What it's telling me is my root data store is going to be created on both ephemeral 0 and ephemeral 1. So it's going to be split between these two disks on the server, likely going to be RAID 0. And let me clarify that. It is RAID 0. So what I've got is my root disk. Now, I know that Windows is going to be like a C drive, right? Well, behind the scenes, Amazon is running Windows on a Linux instance. So it's saying, okay, I've got this Linux directory. This is going to be the root drive, which is going to be your Windows C drive. It's 30 gigs in size. And I'm going to stripe it between ephemeral 0 and ephemeral 1. So that essentially gives you two hard drives on the server that are running at the same time. Now, if you Google, you can find ways to where you can even get more ephemeral disks added, thus increasing the performance of your system. But if you go with a small instance, then you're only going to have one ephemeral drive. So by default, so it's essentially running off of a single hard drive on the server. Now, notice when I'm looking at this, I've got terminate or delete on termination true, and I can't change that. Why? Well, it's ephemeral storage. That's the whole essence of ephemeral, is your instance will delete all of its storage as soon as you turn it off, or in our case, we get outbid because we used a spot instance. What if I want to have this run on EBS storage? Remember, EBS is going to be our storage that stays around rather than terminating right away. So I can say, well, you know what? Why don't I yank, let's get the ephemeral storage out of there. Right? And I'm going to say I want to go instead with an EBS volume. We'll give the same 30 gigabytes in size. We can even go with a provisioned IAPS. Actually, I don't want to get too deep into the storage because that's going to be later on. Oh, you don't want that guy. That defeats the whole purpose of going with EBS, delete on termination. So I'm going to say, no, actually keep that guy around. Let's add that storage in there. And now it's saying my root volume is going to be provisioned on this EBS store, if that's what I wanted, right? So there's other options that we can go through. I don't want to get too deep. I'm starting to overlap with my storage nuggets. Let's restore our ephemeral 0 and 1 between these guys, and we will say go. Okay, next. Now it's going to ask us for a key pair. What is a key pair? A key pair is actually a mathematical formula, or I'll say a piece of a mathematical formula called public key cryptography, or PKI. Actually, that's the public key infrastructure, but it's same thing. So essentially, with public key cryptography, forgive my art, you're going to end up with two different keys: a public key, that's the name, and a private key. Now, these keys are exactly the opposite of each other. So there's our private key. These keys are exactly the opposite of each other, and think of them like encryption and decryption algorithms. So, for instance, if let's say I've got a super secret string, like the password is P@SSW0RD, and I want to send that to somebody without somebody being able to intercept it or receive it. Well, what I could do is let's just say I've got me over here, and I want to get this information to you over there. Across some unsecure medium with all these evil people trying to steal my stuff with antennas on their head. So I'm going to take a public key and assume that you have the private key. Now, obviously, I would have had to get that private key to you in some way. That evil person with antennas does not get that, right? So I would take a public key, which the reason they call it public is anybody can get it, and encrypt that data with it. Now, I can't decrypt it with a public key. That public key is a one-way street. Once I encrypt something with that, the only way I can decrypt it is by using a private key. Now, as long as you have that, and I only have the public, and maybe even evil person X on the internet has a public, then I can send this encrypted data across the internet, and I know no one can decrypt it except the person with the private key. Matter of fact, this is how all websites work. For instance, when you go to a secure website, let's say you've got https://yourbank.com. I'll just put yourbank.com, right? So when you go to that, what they actually do is they have a private key behind the scene that can decrypt data. They give you, in your web browser, a public key, right? And now you can use that to encrypt anything that you send to them. So you can encrypt your data that you send to them, and no one on the internet will be able to decrypt that data, even though this anybody can get that public key. It's public. It's fair game for anybody that comes to that bank can get that public key. Even though they have the public key, they cannot decrypt it because of the private key. This is why they call it public key cryptography. It's the ability to have security over a public network. It's actually amazing, and we could go a lot deeper, but that's where I'm going to leave it for now. So back over here, how does all that relate to what we're about to do? Well, this will be creating a new key pair. Now, I will tell you that in the lab I created, I had you do this beforehand. Let me, I can't here. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah. So over here on the instances, right? We have that's where we're generating this instance. You see down here, it's shaded out. I can't click on it, but it says key pairs down at the bottom. In the lab I wrote, I actually, before you get to this point, have you go manually create a key pair, and then in the create the instance wizard, we go in and choose our existing key pair. So we're gonna say, let's just call this first keys. All right. So we hit create and download the key pair. Now, what's the story? You know, explain what just happened there, Jeremy. Well, what just happened there, and I'll shrink down my browser, is to my computer, it downloaded firstkeys.pem. Now, that just happened by default on the fly. And I just clicked to open the folder so I could show it to you, and I'm looking and saying, how much stuff do I have to hide in my download folder? Answer, everything. I just paused and hit it all. Okay, I know some of you are like, whoa, what's Jeremy? It's just weird, okay? It's when you download stuff and people are like, oh, what's that? Let's look at, it's like, hey guys, come on into my anyway. I'm done, right? So firstkeys.pem. Now I'm going to right click on this, open it with Notepad++, which is my little notepad. Notice it says begin RSA private key. This is all of the gobbledygook that makes a private key. Just think of it like it's a portion of a big mathematical algorithm that does all this. Now, you want to absolutely make sure that you keep that. You hide it. It's a secure thing. You don't want to just start, putting that on a website for people to download and things like that, because this by default is going to be the keys to your instance. Now, how this works is two different ways. One, if you're generating a Windows instance, which we are creating this, then this key will be able to unlock the default administrative password that AWS creates for me. As part of their AMI that they built with Windows installed, part of this script that one runs, I don't know if they do, it's called a sysprep or what they do, but they run some kind of script when you generate your instance that renames the administrative password, I should say, reassigns the administrative password to some big random string. Well, the only way that you can get that random string is by offering that instance your private key. I'll show you that in just a second. When it comes to Linux, if I've got my Linux instance over there, the private key can actually be used to log into the system for the first time. In Linux, you can say, you know what, I don't want to use usernames and passwords to log people in. I want to use public and private keys. And if somebody comes to me and says, I have the private key, and the public key will be able to recognize that and say, okay, well, I verify that you do indeed have the private key. I'm going to allow you to log on into, you can even get into the root account of Linux, and that's exactly how AWS does it. So this private key is essential to be able to access your instance. I'll show you how it works in the Windows world. Now, before we get into security groups, can I go back real quick? I just want to show you something. So now notice it says, okay, you have an existing key pair. When I go back, it says first keys because I generated that. I can actually use that same key pair for all my instances if I want to. I mean, if it's totally up to me. I can create as many key pairs as I think I don't know. Amazon, if you go to they're like, well, actually, you're limited to 2,000 per reach. I mean, it's something, it's like, come on. Okay, we're not going to do that. But I want to show you down here, proceeding without a key pair. Following with me here, right here? So I could say, I want to create this instance, and actually, I don't want to use a key pair at all. Now notice it says, note, you won't be able to get to this instance unless you already know the password built into this AMI. What do you mean, Amazon? That means if I go and I create my own AMI, maybe I do it in VMware and import it into Amazon Web Services, or I've previously created an image, and already in that instance, I created a user account that I said the logon name is Jeremy, and the password password is PW, well, then I don't need a key pair because maybe I can, if that's a Windows instance, I can remote desktop over to that instance and access it using my pre-built account. Then I just want to emphasize this key pair deal, like when I say first keys key pair, for Windows is probably only going to be used one time. And what's the one time for? To decrypt the default administrative password that Amazon included in their AMI. I'm going to show that to you. With Linux, you can actually use it for more. But for Windows, I mean, that's usually all it is. So if you create your own AMI, you may not need a key pair. Okay. Down to the security group. What is a security group? It is a firewall. It is Amazon's version of a very simple firewall that you can use to block access to your machines. Now, when you create your instance, your running server, you are actually connected directly to the internet. My mother-in-law, actually, I should not say this. I'm actually recording from home today, and she's going to be coming to my house in just a moment. So I'm going to get this story out there. My mother-in-law had her computer at her house directly connected to the internet. And one day she was like, Jeremy, my computer's running so slow. And I'm like, it better not be slow because I've built that computer. And I know, I was like, this is a great computer. I didn't know that she didn't have a router or anything. She's actually out of state. So I just shipped it to her. And anyway. I digress, right? So she plugged her computer straight into the internet. Long story short, I remotely accessed that computer, and her computer has been compromised. First off, it has a public IP address right on the network card of her home computer. And by the way, if this is you, don't feel bad. A lot of people do this. But if you do that, it's only a matter of time, especially if you run Windows. Linux is vulnerable as well, but if you run Windows, it's only a matter of time before somebody compromises your computer and uses it. In her case, it was being used for all sorts of illegal activity. People can turn your computer essentially into a little drone behind the scenes to store stolen files, and that, I mean, just it gets ugly when you really get into what people can do with a stolen computer. And when the police find out where those files are at, they show up at my mother-in-law's door instead of the actual perpetrator. So once I found out, I'm like, you cannot connect your computer directly to the internet, and that's exactly what AWS does. Really? Yes, public IP address right on the network card of the computer. So how do they secure it? Welcome to security groups. This is a very simple firewall, which by default, they put a wall on Windows computers, and they say the only thing that's allowed in is port 3389, which is what? Remote Desktop Protocol. So you can actually get to it and manage it. You can see the source right here. The source 0.0.0.0.0 means anybody. Anybody that's allowed to get in, you can definitely do that. So is this a good practice? Even this, I would say no. The reason why is because anybody out there, let's say evil person X out here in the world, X, can run a little scanner, an IP scanner that searches the whole internet to try and find IP addresses with port 3389 open. As soon as he finds one, he's like, aha, I now have a server that I can access, and he just starts his little script running to start trying to brute force its way into that server. Let's try the username administrator with a password to password. Let's try the, I said perpetrator X out here, but perpetrator X is not actually sitting at his computer. He's drinking a cup of iced tea, watching television, while his computer scripts are running behind it. He's not sitting there trying all these passwords. He's got a dictionary program putting every single password in the world and every variation thereof into your remote. I mean, eventually, given enough time, he will break through. Now, that time, depending on how long the password may be, a trillion years. But at the same time, if you have very simple passwords, he's going to get in. So it is not a good practice to allow 3389 to the internet. So you might say, well, what can we do? Well, what I would do as a default rule. Now, this I know some people are going to say, well, I don't know about that, but let me show you. I would go in there, yank that thing out of there. I would find out what IP address I'm coming from. How do you do that? Go open a web browser and go to ipchicken.com. Seriously, ipchicken. Or you can just go to Google and type in what's my IP address. Find out the subnet that your company uses, whatever. I mean, just restrict it down and say, I only want to allow let's go to remote desktop. RDP rule, to allow, let's just say my IP address is 38.55.11.22. I'm just making this up. /32. Now, good grief, how deep do I go into this? Okay, this is my love and passion, is networking and subnetting. So tell you what, I'm just going to tell you this is CIDR notation. I'm putting that there because you can go to Google and type in CIDR notation and find out all about it. So, for instance, if I do each one of these represents 8 bits of information. So this represents how many bits are relevant. So /32 says all of these, all 32, because 8 times 4 is what? 32, right? All of these digits are significant. Like that. I'm going to add that rule, and now just that one IP address is allowed to come in via RDP. If I wanted to come in there and say, well, actually, I also want to allow RDP from my company's entire subnet, which maybe is 39 or 20, whatever my fingers type, 29.1.1.0/24. What that says is, if each one of these represents 8 bits of information, then that means filter on the first 3 of these, right? So it has to come from an IP address that starts with 29. It has to have 1. It has to have 1. And then this last one, nice, Jeremy. This last IP digit, octet right there, is irrelevant. It can be whatever, 159, 63, whatever. It can be anything, and it's allowed. So I'll add that rule in there. So I'm permitting remote desktop protocol, which happens to be TCP port 3389, to this. Now, what else can I do? Well, first off, I would rename this guy. Maybe I'm running this as a web server. All right, so I could say web server template, description. Duh, it's a web server template. I'm going to come in here and say, I'll also allow HTTP from everybody, because maybe this is running IIS, Internet Information Server, allowing sites of the world. I'll also say HTTPS. Now, Amazon's very good about putting real common port numbers right up here of what most people use, but maybe you've got a custom rule where you're like, well, actually, our World of Warcraft server we're hosting in the cloud is 632090. As a port. I'm also going to allow that. You can do whatever you like. So this is, now keep in mind, direction wise, this is all inbound. Security groups, get that out of there. Security groups is focused from the internet in. There is no way currently with a security group to restrict outbound. Outbound is always full access. And think about it, you usually don't want to restrict your servers from what they can get to, or do you? There is an option, that's going to be VPC, another nugget, but security groups restrict the inbound access to those servers. Okay, now I actually am just going to add remote desktop protocol right back in there from everybody, which kind of defeats the whole point of the stuff I did up here. Gone, because I know my IP address here, but I don't want to show it to you, okay? Okay, so I'm going to create a new security group, or if I have previously gone in and created a security group already that I can use, you can see that, let's shrink this down. Over here on the left is a place where you can create security groups. Okay, you can do that. So continue on. And now it's saying you are done. You are bidding 10.8 cents for this extra large instance, or large, or whatever it is. I can't help but think of fast food every time I think of these instance name. Would you like to double size your instance? So it's now going in there. Notice the first place it lands. Let me shrink this back down. Bring it into the screen. First place this lands, first category it lands, is in the spot request world. This isn't a running instance yet. It's saying, okay, I'm pending evaluation. I'm checking this out, making sure that, whatever Amazon's doing behind the scenes, submitting this bid to the floor. I don't know if there's little guys on like an AWS bidding floor going, I've got 10.8 cents, and somebody's like, give them that server, whatever. So it's pending evaluation. I'll hit refresh. Pending. So we're going to wait. It's assuming nobody else has bid up in the time I've been talking. It's going to sit here and eventually say good, as in active. It's now working. And we will see that show up as an instance. So I'm going to have a cup of coffee, pause the recording, and we'll come back to this. Actually, you know what? I put my coffee down. Can I show you while we're waiting for that to happen, just so you can see it, the reserved instances? So we can go in here and do a reserved instance, and this is what I wanted to show you, is we can choose, for instance, what instance types we want. This is, remember reserved instance from, was it the last nugget? The pricing nugget, right? Reserved instance where you can pre-buy, you can prepay for your instances, and then pay a reduced hourly rate. I'm trying to talk too fast. Okay, reduced hourly rate. I can say, well, how about I do a Windows instance, and I can say, do I want this in they call it Amazon Classic, AWS Classic, which is no VPC networking, or do I want it in VPC? Now that's a big decision. I would really think it through before you buy some instances, reserved instances in the Classic, because frankly, if you grow, you're gonna want to, you will want VPC. There's no question about it. So I would, and Amazon is moving that way to where everybody starts from VPC. Now, notice what happens when I go from platform Windows to platform Windows VPC. This tenancy over here comes up. I think I told you about this, but maybe not. I can say, you know what, I want to go. No, I can't choose a tenancy here. But when I go to VPC, it says, do you want default or do you want dedicated? Some people might want their own server physically. Meaning, some people might have enough security concerns with Amazon that they're like, you know what, I love you, Amazon. I know that you're telling me it's all secure, but I kind of freak out about it, or maybe I don't want to have to worry about somebody misbehaving on my same physical server, which costs my server some of its performance, which can happen. It can happen. So you can pay, and you can pay well, for a dedicated tenancy, which means you get your own server physically. And they don't let anybody else on that server. So that is an option for you. So you choose your instance type, where in Oregon in this case do you want it, what term, 1 or 36 months. So that's your two price ranges that we saw. And then we say, well, what's your utilization? Remember, light and medium, you pay hourly in addition to the flat rate. Heavy is always billed, like you're always running. This is just how long you're running your instance for. So from there you can say, okay, well, I've got all that. Give me a well, in this case, it looks like Oregon doesn't have, I'm guessing this dedicated server isn't going to make it fly, doesn't have any dedicated server for that. So we'll go back to the default pool. And you can see we've got a 12-month term. Upfront price is $62, and then we pay a sixth of a cent an hour to run that. So you see what okay. So that's, I think we ate it up enough time. I bet you no, seriously, okay. Oh, nope, I just had to refresh. There we go. It's active. It's fulfilled. Now we're into our spot instance. So now that the spot, so they agreed. They're like, all right, you get this this extra large fries for a third, less than a third of a price of an on-demand. So now I can hop over here. Let's do a quick refresh. And look at that. Woohoo! We got our first instance running. Actually, it's initializing right now. But it's running on a nice beefy server. It just doesn't make you feel good. I feel like I'm a garage sailor. Like I just went and bargained down. I'm gonna get that photo of Marilyn Monroe for 10 cents. So what am I talking about? So we've got this instance that's now running. Now, remember, if somebody outbids me, it's terminated. And I want to emphasize, if I, meaning Jeremy Chara, goes in and says, actually, scratch that, I'm gonna terminate this, I will be charged for the hour. Okay, I can't try and play a game where I wait 50 minutes and then Amazon's like, okay, we get your what you're trying to do there. No, you will be charged for the full hour. So this recording, guys, just to let you know, I threw it all out there. This cost me 10 cents to do it. Just keeping it real. While we're waiting for that to come up, I want to scroll down a little bit right here. Actually, let's just keep it right here to this. So valuable. So what Amazon does when you start up an instance is they assign you, as I just said with the security groups, they give you a public IP address. If you want to know what it is, that's it. 50, 112, 237, 227. Now, they actually map that to a DNS name. Now, so you can then go into your own DNS records. DNS-wise, I can say, you know what, Jeremy.com. I don't own that domain, but if I did, I might say Jeremy.com actually points to, this would be called a CNAME. Record, which is an alias. It's where I'm saying my domain name actually points to another domain name, which in this case would be, I'm not going to write it up there, would be this, EC2-50-, so that way people on the internet will go to jeremy.com, and then this ends up forwarding over to 50, so people don't, I don't want to tell my friends, hey guys, come check out my new website. But from before we do that DNS mapping, and let's just see if it's up and running. Hey, good. We're there, right? Before we do that DNS mapping, I can connect to this guy using remote desktop. So I'm going to go bring up a start prompt. So, by the way, if you're a Windows nerd, you can open remote desktop by MSTSC, Microsoft Terminal Service Client. So I'm going to paste that new address in there. You can see right there is going to be the computer I connect to, and connect. Okay. What's the username and password? Ah, I'm glad you asked. We're stuck at this point. We're like, is it? I mean, you can guess all day. It's not going to work. So I'm going to minimize that guy, and I'm going to come here to my instance, right-click it, and say, give me the Windows password. Now you might say, whoa, that's a little unsecure, right? Ah, well, now we're back here to our key pair. It's saying, okay, well, actually, this is your password in its encrypted form. That won't actually work because that's the encrypted, because I encrypted that with the public key of your first key's key set. So what it's saying is you can either type it in, or copy and paste it, or you can choose that key set that we got earlier. And I'll click OK. And all that does, by the way, is just fill this in. So you can copy and paste it in right there and hit decrypt password. Ready? Oh, look at that password. So that is the password now for that administrative account. So now I can come back here, connect, administrator, and hit paste. Paste my password in, and it says, oh, here's your default host name of your server, Amazon. That's, I'm sure, from some script Amazon runs to do this. And now we are bringing in, drum roll, please. Oh, I forgot. This is Windows Server 2012. I'm so used to Windows Server 2008 that which is fast. Well, not that 12 isn't, but I mean, usually it's like, bing, you're in. I can honestly say, I know this may be sad. This is my first time connecting to Windows Server 2012. Really? Now I know you guys are like, really? But it's right now. It's 2013. Who uses Server 2012 and 2013? Everybody's on Server 2008. Okay. Anyway, so it's kind of exciting. This is a first for me. So look at this. They actually use. You can do this with a program called BG Info, which it sounds like Amazon is using behind the scenes to put all that information right on the background of your server. It tells everything about this. This is great. So we are in now. Let me show you. If I go in here and say, dang it, where's my start menu? Okay, Windows Server 2012, like I said, it's my first forage into this. So hang on, I've got to Google, where do you change your Windows password? Oh wait, look at that. Hang on, let's try this way. I'm gonna go Control Panel, User Accounts. Huh? Oh, well, hang on. I'm getting there. I'm figuring this out here. Manage your credentials. Dang it! No. Okay, I'm 2 seconds away from. I'm giving it one more go. Manage and change account. No. Administrator, right? Manage your. Where is it? Microsoft is supposed to be intuitive. All right, I admit it. I had to pause and Google it. Okay, intuitive. Can you hang with me? Oh no, not here. I want to manage another account, not the administrator. Oh, actually, the administrator. Oh, thanks, Microsoft. That was smart. Okay, so now I can put in my current password, which I just copy and pasted there. I'm going to put in my new password. Password. Ooh, I wonder if it's going to tell me that's not complex enough. Change password. Yeah, I figured it would. All right, let's try. I don't know why I'm being secretive. I'm actually using P@SSW0RD, right, as a password. So it's nothing secret. The reason I'm wanting to do this is because I want to make sure I emphasize. There's been a lot of confusion on this with folks I've spoken with. See, this is where I found it. With folks I've spoken with before. They think, okay, now that you changed your password, the next time you come here and say get the Windows password, it's now going to tell you the new password that you changed. That's actually not true. It's still gonna, I changed the password. It's P@SSW0RD. I hit decrypt, and Amazon still thinks it's the old one that I had in there. Why? Because Amazon doesn't know that I changed the password. As a matter of fact, Amazon doesn't know anything about what I'm doing inside of my instance. That's not their business. I don't want them to know what I'm doing inside of my instance. So now what can I do with that private key? Throw it away. Unless I want to generate more instances with that private key, what first key that I had. So that is only used in Windows for the very first time you access that instance and never again. Oh my goodness, I'm already over time. I was thinking anything else I can jam in here. I haven't even gotten here. Well, okay, let me do this because I promised it to you and it's really quick. Okay, so creating AMI. So what I did was I took a template Amazon AMI, right, and generated my instance now running in the cloud. I just went in and changed the password. That's the only thing I've done to that instance to this, right? So now the password is set, and I can then create an AMI from my running instance, so I don't have to use Amazon's templates in the future. The way I do that, again, piece of cake. You just right-click on that server and hit Create Image, EBS AMI, Elastic Block Storage AMI. So I can click on that, and it says, okay, well, why don't you now take that root volume, and we'll call this Jeremy's first 2012 instance with password. Amazing. Right? That's the only thing I've done to customize this instance in any way. So now I can say, okay, I want to take that root instance, go ahead and create my AMI from here. So it says, okay, now you're creating an AMI. Look at that. So now I go to AMIs, which actually just clicks on this link over there. You get the same thing right here. And notice it's creating. It's creating right now, if I go back to my AMIs, creating that instance. So now, once it's done, I can generate new instances based on that. That's it. That's the only thing I wanted to show you on there. But I want to take 2 seconds, okay, maybe a few more, to say, now think of that power. I mean, yes, I changed the password, right? Big deal. But think of spending a couple hours customizing that to exactly the server that you want it to be. Right? Then you can start generating as many little drones as you want. Now there's more to Windows. You want to do something called sysprep to where it'll change the name automatically and generate unique SIDs and all. I mean, there's a lot to Windows, but just the concept, isn't that amazing? That you can then take that and create all your little Windows web server drones from that AMI, and then you don't even need key pairs anymore because you've preset all the password. They can come and join the web. This is Animoto, right? Well, probably not on Windows. I shouldn't say that. Probably not on Windows. Probably on Linux is what Animoto runs off of. But nonetheless, that's exactly how this works. Okay, that's all I can do. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.